More information coming out on the cognitive cover-up. 4 top Biden aides have agreed to testify as the investigation of the former president's mental acuity intensifies. This comes after a third Biden autopen signature has been identified this week. The government watchdog agency, the Oversight Project, says more than 87% of autopen signed executive orders occurred while Biden was physically present in Washington in 2022 and actively signed other paperwork by hand. Yesterday, President Trump suggested a staffer in Biden's inner circle controlled the autopen.
The autopen really did. I mean, the people, whether it's Lisa Monaco or whoever operated the autopen, these are criminals.
Who is Lisa Monaco? Well, she was Joe Biden's deputy attorney general. Before that, she was Obama's Homeland Security advisor. As more information emerges, will we get the truth? Joining me now is Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Mr. Chairman, thank you for being with us here today. Tell us the significance in your mind of 87% of the documents signed via autopen were done while Joe Biden was present in Washington, D.C. What does that signify?
Well, it signifies that for some reason he wasn't able to sign the documents, whether it was physical or whether it was mental, but there was some reason for him not to sign the documents. Most presidents have bill signing ceremonies and they make a big deal out of it, but he never did. He never did sign them physically and answer questions like Donald Trump and Obama and Bush and every other president did before him. So we want to find out two things. First of all, from these staffers, we want to find out what was the process involved in getting a document into the autopen and having someone press the power button and sign Joe Biden's signature. And secondly, what type of mental and physical condition was Joe Biden in? Did he know what was going on around him? Did he have the wherewithal to be able to instruct employees to use the autopen? That's come into question, and that's why we're bringing the doctor in as well.
Yeah, it's important to note that all presidents have used an autopen. It's often used when they're on the road or incapable of signing a document that they're not physically present for. But in this case, when we know that Joe Biden was present to sign other documents, why was he not signing these? Now, you guys have now had the commitment of several former Biden officials, by the way, who've agreed to testify. Those include Neera Tanden, the former director of the Domestic Policy Council, Anthony Bernal. He's a former senior advisor to the First Lady. Ashley Williams, former deputy director of the Oval Office Operations, and Annie Tomasini, former deputy chief of staff. The real question is what you just suggested, Mr. Chairman, not so much about the autopen, but whether or not the autopen was used because the President of the United States was either unaware or incapable of knowing what he was signing. Will you get those answers from those witnesses?
Well, we're sure going to try. They've lawyered up. But they knew exactly the seriousness of this investigation. They watch the news. They know that even on the liberal networks like CNN, they're now claiming that Joe Biden wasn't aware of what was going on around him. The significance of this is that someone was signing his name on documents, and those documents just happened to be major executive orders and major pardons, many of whom were real criminals, I would argue very criminal types of people. And we want to know, did Joe Biden have any knowledge of this? Because if he did not, if he didn't have any knowledge, or if he was incapable of having any knowledge, then I think that many of these executive orders and some of the pardons could be considered null and void by a court of law.
All right, before we go, speaking of crime, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver has been charged now. It's a felony count. It's facing 17 years in prison for interfering with an officer. What do you think about these charges now facing your colleague there in Congress? Well,
obviously, this was a stunt that went bad. The Democrats make a big deal every day, including today on the House floor, about an insurrection and different things like that. So I think it's serious to do what she did. The crime seems the penalty seems a little excessive in my opinion. But at the end of the day, I think people need to be held accountable for obstructing law enforcement and doing exactly what she did that was caught on film.
For all the talk, as you point out, of insurrection on the House floor, there's a lot of that going on in the streets of America, or sometimes with United States elected representatives when it comes to the enforcement of government law, the will of the people. Mr. Chairman, great to see you here today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.